Welcome to Sib Spot. Today's featured Reddit stories are from Entitled People. Story 1 is by Tarzan is My Pony. Karen got her due at the grocery store. I'm a 40 male and my 4-year-old daughter loves grocery shopping with me, especially if we get one of those race car grocery carts. If it's a slow time at the grocery store, I take her to the deli where there's a wide open space in the corner to spin in a circle with the cart. She loves it. It usually gathers smiles in the rare case somebody is nearby, just a dad having fun with his daughter, right? Just yesterday, after doing a single spin, we went on our way when an older lady, I'd say in her 70s, came towards us shaking her head and glaring at us. I gave her a perplexed look in response to her scowl, and she muttered something about having absolutely no respect for public spaces. I responded, "Sorry, ma'am, I was just having fun with my child. Sorry to have offended you. Have a nice day." I thought that was that and I was happy to move on, but she continued. "Shame on you for teaching your child such poor manners. I taught my children how to behave in public." Me, "Clearly, that's a lesson you didn't bother to learn yourself. I wonder how well they turned out." Her muttered something about them being perfect. My almost 4-year-old is extremely perceptive and sensitive and asked if she'd done something wrong. I then explained as loud as I could. Me, "Absolutely not, honey. That's just a very grumpy old bully." She angrily responded, "I am not grumpy. I just want to be left alone." Me with a stern face, "No? Well, you certainly are a bully then, and if you want to be left alone, I strongly suggest you start minding your own effing business. You taught your children to behave in stores? I'm teaching mine to stand up to bullies like you. Thank you for this perfect teaching moment." She finally caught the hint to shut her trap and move along, still muttering and shaking her head. Petty revenge commences. Twice more we encountered her in the other aisles, and I made sure to overdo the race car theme, but would abruptly stop when we got near her, saying loudly to my daughter, "Careful now, honey, we don't want to anger the fun police," and my daughter played along perfectly. As fate would have it, we were approaching to check out at nearly the same time. We got there first, but I magnanimously allowed her in front of us to be in line at the solitary mannered checkout, knowing she would complain, and she did not disappoint. She immediately started to explain to the till person that she was harassed by me and my daughter this whole time, and how we were disrupting the whole store. The till lady cautiously looked over at me, and I just gave a totally confused shrug. I'm still in my formal work clothes, suit and tie, and my daughter is wearing her adorable poofy fairy skirt. Picture-perfect innocence. Having obviously seen me let the lady in front of us in line, the till person gave me an apologetic smile and just nodded and smiled, humoring Karen. She must have tried complaining further at customer service, because now we were leaving at the same time, despite our full grocery cart and my kid insisting on helping with the bagging. Once outside, I made sure to drag the race cart past her as loudly and as obnoxiously as I could as my daughter squealed in delight. I do feel bad for people that are this desperately miserable, but I also have zero patience for them taking it out on other people, just trying to enjoy a sliver of joy in their day. I think if enough of us consistently confront people like this, they might just learn to keep their mouths shut and this poor attitude to themselves. I'm all for it as long as you weren't really being disruptive to other customers in the store. There's people who want to have fun in stores, and that's fine to an extent, but have you ever been around kids that are being really loud and tearing through aisles? You have control of your daughter, but there are definitely people who don't have control of their kids and just let them have fun all the time in stores, and that's not okay. Because believe it or not, there's people who just want to go to the store to get their shopping done. They want to go in, get their stuff, go out. They don't want to have to avoid a kid running and screaming and shrieking through the aisle. So as long as you've got control of your kid and you're just driving around with her in the race car, that's perfectly fine. As long as you're not actually disrupting anybody else from doing their shopping. Down in the comments by SSN Forever. You'd better hope that I never catch you and your daughter at the grocery store partaking in those shopping cart shenanigans. We always get the red racing cart, and we will blow your friggin' caster wheels off. Don't even think we're not above drifting around the cereal aisle, either. This comment right here made me think of bumper cars. Is anybody else convinced that there are certain color bumper cars that go faster than other ones? Red means it goes faster, right? Our next story is by Dickie Bow. Watching my housemate die inside. This happened in my second year of university in the UK circa 1998. 6 of us shared a house with an even split of boys and girls. John was my best mate and was very shy and had no confidence with girls. He got on really well with the girls we lived with, Sarah in particular. When we moved in, Sarah had a boyfriend who thankfully after a few months she broke up with as he was a jerk. After this, Sarah and John grew closer and she would quite often sit and cuddle with him while watching TV, dance with him while we were out, and generally spend a lot of time with him. John was clueless about women and thought they were just besties, but it was clear to everyone else that they were into each other. The important point to the story is that John was still a virgin. Our other male housemate, Steve, was the opposite of John. He was a player. He had a girlfriend from school who was a few hours away at another university, so he'd regularly sleep with anyone that would have him. He also had a crush on Sarah and tried it with her a few times and got rejected. Steve used to take the mickey out of John for being a virgin. At first it was every so often, and then when Jon and Sarah were getting closer, he used to call him Virgin Boy in an attempt to belittle him. The rest of us told him to knock it off, but he persisted for a few weeks. Not long after we'd gotten back from Christmas break, a few of us were in the living room after university, and Steve walked in and asked me and Virgin Boy if we'd like to order a pizza for dinner. Sarah walked in from the kitchen at that point and walked over to John and sat on his knee, kissed him, looked at Steve and said, "You can't call him that anymore. We had a great time this morning, and he made me several times. I doubt you've ever managed that with your tiny manhood." The rest of us sat there trying to stifle laughter. Steve went bright red, mumbled something, and went to his room. Turned out Sarah had made a move on John that morning. They both admitted to being into each other and had slept together. Sarah snapped when she heard Virgin Boy and decided she had enough of Steve. Jon and Sarah are still together, married with 3 kids. It's just so silly. This is another one of those situations where it's different strokes for different folks. You want to sleep with a lot of people, that's fine. You want to reserve yourself for the right person, that's fine too. But do not pick on or denigrate people for making that choice. They can do what they want to make themselves happy. Our last story today is by Sweet Speech 9054. Karen neighbor complained, now everyone has to suffer. Our Karen neighbor complained about another neighbor's motorcycle. It's a stock bike, so he didn't add any loud mufflers, and prior to this he was very respectful. He would start the bike and drive conservatively out of the neighborhood. But then enters Karen. Karen complains about everything, and everyone knows her. She has complained several times about the motorcycle and calls the cops frequently for dumb things. This time she decides to go too far and tries to prevent the motorcycle from leaving the neighborhood. She nearly ran him over. So now, because Karen literally tried to murder someone, the motorcycle rider starts his motorcycle a few times a day, rides to Karen's house a couple houses down, revs his engine for a few minutes, then speeds away in the most obnoxious way possible. He's even had some of his buddies come by in a sort of "F you, Karen" parade. I talked to him, we know each other, and he's a decent dude. And he agrees to stop doing this at night and to ride safely since there's a lot of kids in the area. I honestly can't blame him at all because everyone hates this B-word and she deserves much worse considering what she did. I just wish there was a legal way to get her to stop being such a B-word. I don't agree with people having loud vehicles in an area. Because you can sometimes hear people riding motorcycles like 5 blocks away. They're just so loud. I used to have neighbors that would ride 4-wheelers and ATVs up and down our street. And during the wintertime, they would ride snowmobiles up and down the street, sometimes at 2 a.m. This was not some backwoods street. This was a small town. There were like 50 people on our street, and they would ride it up and down the street. I had school in the morning, and I would be woken up at 2 or 3 a.m. by the snowmobile. Like, it sucks that he's not being respectful to the rest of the neighbors now. And they, if they really have a problem with it, could call the authorities as well. I'm not gonna lie, guys. I don't like noise. I like quiet. But again, to each their own. We never called the police on the people who were riding their vehicles up and down the street in the middle of the mornings. We could have, but we were actually good neighbors, and we would just talk to them and say, hey, knock it off, and for a while at least they would. Our stories for today have come to a close. Until we meet again, have a silent day.